All right, Cam, if you can give us a check on the.
All right, let's see how I sound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How's
Can you
that?
guys hear all that in the back? One more, Cam.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yellowstone floods.
Got it? Awesome. Well, with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Cam.
All right, thank you.
To Shelby.
Shelby. Let me know when I'm on. I can't see the.
Either one.
All right. We'll get him set up and sharing. While we do that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Cam Shelley. He's the superintendent. I'm old, I need my glasses. For the Yellowstone National Park. Cam Shelley assumed duties as the superintendent of Yellowstone National Park in October of 2018. Yellowstone is one of the largest national park operations in the world, spanning 2.2 million acres and receiving over 4 million visitors each year. The park has a team of over 1,000 employees and volunteers and an annual budget exceeding $60 million. Cam is a third-generation Park Service manager and began his National Park Service career in 1990 in Yellowstone's backcountry. During his tenure, Cam has worked with Yellowstone's team to set new strategic priorities that focus on the Yellowstone workforce, strengthening the Yellowstone ecosystem, a world-class visitor experience, investing in infrastructure, and building coalitions and partnerships. Cam oversaw the response and recovery to the devastating floods in 2022, reopening 93% of the park within 20 days. The park is completing a $40 million employee housing improvement project, expanding bison conservation efforts, investing a record amount to combat non-native species, and developing a more focused approach to ecosystem management, sustainability, and future climate challenges. The park is preparing a new strategy for managing increasing visitation and is receiving over $250 million in projects as part of the recently passed Great American Outdoors Act. During the park's 150th anniversary, Cam led significant efforts to engage American Indian tribes to better honor their important cultures and heritage in the Yellowstone area. He is currently the lead partner for the Interagency Bison Management Plan Team and outgoing chair of the Greater Yellowstone Coordinating Committee, an executive group of federal and state managers spanning 3 states within the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Cam has served in a variety of other senior leadership positions throughout his career. His previous assignments include Regional Director, Midwest Region, where he oversaw 61 national park units in 13 states, and where he led efforts to complete one of the largest public and private partnerships in National Park Service history. He has also served as the Associate Director for Visitor and Resource Protection, Superintendent of the Natchez Trace Parkway, Deputy Associate Director, Chief of Staff for Visitor and Resource Protection, Chief of Ranger Operations in Yosemite National Park, and a variety of other field positions. Cam holds a bachelor's degree in management from St. Mary's College of California, a master's degree in environmental management from Duke University, and is a graduate of the Harvard University Senior Executive Fellow Program. Cam was awarded the Superintendent of the Year Award for the Southeast Region in 2011 and the Department of Interior's Meritorious Achievement Award in 2015 for his wide-ranging executive leadership actions. Cam has been married to Jill Walston Shelley for 26 years, and they have 1 college-age son. Please join me in a big welcome for Superintendent of Yellowstone National Park, Mr. Cam Shelley.
Thank you, Shelby. I think that I didn't know you were gonna read that whole thing. That's great. Thank you. I really wanted to be there this week. I ended up getting severe bronchitis, which almost turned into pneumonia. So I really wanted to be there, but I don't think you would want me there. I feel like I've kind of turned the corner a little bit here, but if I jump off the screen, it's because I went into a coughing fit. So sorry not to be there with you in person. I'm hoping you've had a good session so far, and thanks for the invite to spend a few minutes with you here this afternoon. 2022 in a lot of ways was a great year to have behind us from the Yellowstone perspective. I think most of you, living in and around Wyoming, saw a lot of the footage of what happened here on June 13th. Not only affected Yellowstone, but affected a lot of parts of Montana, not so much Wyoming in many ways, but definitely areas in Montana and a good portion of the northern part of Yellowstone. I think the silver lining of the floods of 2022 was it really showed a lot of resiliency on the part of our gateway communities, our states, our counties, our partners, the team here in Yellowstone, all of whom really came together in a time of need to try to make the best out of a very, very bad situation. My compliments to the governor of Wyoming, the governor of Montana, all of the communities that helped us through this, helped us strategize, members of Congress, the Department of Transportation, Department of Interior. It really was a team effort. And I think when you see some of the slides that I'll run you through here in a minute, you'll recognize the extent of the collaboration that was required to, number one, get the park, at least on the southern end, reopened within 8 days of the flood event, and then the northern end within 20 days. And then to get these two corridors, for those of you, and I'll show you a map here if you're not familiar, but we have 5 entrances to Yellowstone National Park. We get anywhere from 4 to 5 million visits per year. 3 of those entrances are in Montana. 2 of those entrances are come from Wyoming. 96% of the park is in Wyoming. 3% is in Montana, 1% is in Idaho. But it's everybody's park. It's a global icon. We all care very deeply about it. And I think when we woke up on that Monday morning on June 13th, I would say that I was not optimistic that we'd get the park opened in any form later on in the summer. And I was pleasantly surprised to see how many people came together and the incredible effort that it took to at least get three of the entrances reopened, and then work diligently over about a 4-month period to get the 2 northern entrances open, which I'll go over. So with that, I'm going to switch over to I really hate PowerPoint slides, so I don't have a lot of slides with text. I have a lot of slides with pictures and videos so you can see them. There's really not a good way to do this presentation, especially remotely, without some of these visuals. So let me, Shelby, you can tell me if this pops up here. You all seeing that?
Yeah, we've got it.
So I'm gonna preface this a little bit with kind of what happened, hopefully, leading into that June 13th flood event. Most of you know Yellowstone sits in the northwest corner of Wyoming. The yellow outline here is the park boundary. It's 2.2 million acres. The photo on the left is taken in middle of June of 2021, and you can see the snowpack comparison to the picture on the right, which is the snowpack, same satellite shot, but from mid-June of 2022. So you can see in 2022, we had substantially more snow than we did in 21. We got a lot of late snow in April and May. In fact, I think we got more snow in April and May than we did in January, February, and March in the park. The soil moisture in the park was extremely high in 2022 compared to on the left here in 2021. That's really important as we move into about June 10th. We got a considerable amount of rain early June, but very substantial amounts from the 10th to the 13th. And that rain dropped on about 5 inches or so of recent snow that melted and created, with some warming temperatures, created about 8 to 9 inches of runoff within about a 48-hour period. This section, here's the outline of the park again. You can see the satellite shot from I think this is on the 12th, so the day before the flood, but you can see the deeper red is where the most precipitation was falling. Most of you know the Beartooth Mountains are up here in the northern end, and the Absarokas, all in these areas here, very high mountain ranges, 10 to 12,000 foot mountains. Once again, dropping on that much precipitation on already saturated soils. Focus on this northern end of the park. So Gardner, Montana here, this is the north entrance into Montana. This black line here is to Cook City. Hang on a second. Okay, there was one. Hopefully don't have too many of those. Okay. So call your attention to this northeast entrance road here. Cook City, Montana. Soda Butte Creek, you see in the blue. The Lamar River, which flows into the Yellowstone River. And Mammoth Hot Springs here. This is the north entrance. This entrance here is the second busiest entrance in the park. Let's see here. When the rain event happened over that several days, the cubic feet per second at the Yellowstone River, Corwin Springs outside of Gardner, was at over 50,000 CFS. The last previous record in 1997 was just over 30,000. So this was substantially higher flow than anything in recorded history. Same map. You saw where the precipitation came down here on the north end. It's one of the reasons we were able to open the southern end so quickly is the vast majority of the precip fell on the northern end of the park. We did have some damage down here. For reference, if you haven't been to the park, through the south entrance, you go to Grand Teton and Jackson. East entrance goes out to Cody. West entrance goes out to West Yellowstone. And this is called the Southern Loop, where I'm circling here with my cursor. This is called the Northern Loop. And this is once again the north entrance road to Gardner and the northeast entrance road to Cook City, just for reference there. I will start with the north entrance here, but you know, that morning we lost power. Power stayed out for about 48 hours. We lost our wastewater. We have about 7 wastewater systems in the park. We did not have one here in Mammoth. We ran our wastewater through a pipe under the road to Gardner, and that pipe was severed in 5 locations. We had somewhere between 10 and 15,000 visitors in the park. So middle of June is not as busy as middle of August, but it's still busy. So it was a chore to, number one, make sure that we did not have a loss of life or injury, which is a miracle in this event. And that's a testament to the team here who proactively saw what was happening with these rivers in these 2 corridors up north and close the road to the public before there could be, any injuries or worse. We started doing damage assessments early in the morning to try to figure out exactly what happened. We made a decision to push all of the visitors in this northern loop down south. Remember, these two corridors were impassable, north and northeast. So we moved them all into the southern loop to try to determine exactly and get a grasp of how widespread the damage was throughout the park. A couple hours later, we made the decision just to go ahead and evacuate the entire park just so we could reset and make sure that we were as safe as possible, not putting anyone's lives in jeopardy. So we cleared the entire park within about 24 hours. We were then able to put our helicopter up in the air and start to really assess the damage. This is the corridor between Mammoth and Gardner, so the north entrance road. Once again, this 5-mile section right here where I'm pointing in the upper left. And this was taken from our helicopter about 1 o'clock on the Monday of the flood event. One of the things I want to point out is, and Shelby, you guys can let me know if this is delayed. I can't tell if the video is coming across or not, really.
Yeah, it's coming across well.
Is these, and this makes sense. You guys are all engineers, so you know more about this than I do, but it's not rocket science to figure out that almost every area that we lost sections of road in both northern corridors were on these apex curves, which makes sense considering the velocity and the volume of water coming into these curve areas. In areas where we had curves along rivers that we had rip-wrapped or protected the bank, we did not lose those. So most engineers agreed that we lost probably the most vulnerable sections of road that existed. Not that we couldn't get another event and lose more, but these were the most exposed and the least protected, and we lost them. To move forward here, this is the biggest section of the north entrance road that was affected. Let's see if I can get this to stop. It's not pausing for me, but so this is the first blown out section. It's about a 700-foot section between, there's about 4 or 5 sections you saw from the helicopter that were affected on the north entrance road. This one was the one that gave us the most problems when we put engineers on the ground to try to look at, could we even temporarily and expeditiously repair these blown out sections on this road. The road, and you can see here, used to just come straight. This was a full bank. The river used to run over here before the flood. So as you'll see in many of these instances, the river rechanneled itself and was flowing where the road used to exist. The problem with this section here, I mean, you can see the wastewater pipe right there, my arrow's on. And for about 2 days, we were dropping about 200,000 gallons of wastewater into this river until our wastewater operators got the flow diverted into a temporary system. Corps of Engineers, Federal Highways really felt there was no way to quickly fix this. Number one, the CFS of this river was so substantial, and it had already, the bed of the river had already become so established that it would have been very difficult to rechannel this river over to here in order to actually be able to rebuild this road base. The other part is obviously this section up here I mean, I think the day after, a day or two after the flood, it was about here, and this continued to erode. It's even higher up now. So this is extremely unstable. And so there was really no good way to bridge the gap in this section, especially. Some of the sections you saw further down, there were some ways, and I'll show you what we did on the northeast end road. We could have repaired quickly, but this one was the main reason that we did not try to temporarily repair this road corridor. There's another shot out of it looking downstream through the canyon. We had a house in Gardner. This house, was an apartment complex, had 6 apartments occupied by 5 families. They were all safe. Unfortunately, most of them lost all their belongings. Some of you probably saw this on YouTube. This is just outside of Gardner. That apartment building stayed afloat on the river for 5 miles until it hit a bridge at Corwin Springs. So a lot of impacts there with employees and not just with the folks living in these apartments, but elsewhere as well. In the first couple days, the road out of Gardner to Livingston was also underwater. So we had about 3,000 visitors that were stranded in the town of Gardner that we worked with the state and the county and the community to begin working on resupply plans with the National Guard and some things. And fortunately, they were able to get that road to Livingston open after a couple of days and get everybody out of there. So that was the north entrance road. And I'm going to talk about the temporary solution that we came up with on that. But first, I'm going to show you the damage on the northeast entrance road. So this is the road, for those of you that have been here through Lamar Valley to Cook City. And this is the Lamar River that morning. So this is a section called Trout Lake. That was that last shot you saw. And this is a time lapse in that morning. This is at 6:47 a.m. On the 13th. This is at 7:02. So you can see at 6:47, the road's already substantially compromised. Remember, for some reason, I have to look back at the history, but there's a lot of sections that were rip-wrapped, and you can see this back here. It's probably a level 2 or 3 rip-wrap. And for whatever reason, they didn't carry the rip-wrap down, so the road was fine up in areas where we had rip-wrap, as I mentioned, and it was completely gone. But so 6:47, 7:02, 8:32. And that's an air shot a couple hours later of that section. So that's roughly 800 feet. This is what it looked like, I think a week and a half or 2 later after the water had gone down quite a bit. Once again, another area where the river used to be over here and rechanneled itself. A couple other major blown out sections on the northeast entrance road. Lamar Valley. I just threw this up here. Don't try to read it at all, but I wanted to just kind of give you an outline of what we kind of dealt with. I mentioned some of it already, but we evacuated all the visitors. We closed the park. We got the wastewater that was flowing into the Gardner River diverted within about 36 hours. Our friends at Northwestern Energy got the electricity restored at 4 to 8 hours. We were able to get up in the air, assess the damage, not only up here up north, but down south. Able to really kind of focus and put a team on supporting the employees that lost their housing, providing community support, as I mentioned. We identified an 1879 dirt stagecoach road that it was called the Old Gardner Road. And so if you recall damage where the road was, this was a 5 mile, it's about 4 mile, 4.5 mile dirt road that, was not a regularly used road, but it was about 10 feet wide. And after the engineers looked at the Gardner Canyon and realized we're not going to be able to temporarily repair that, we immediately started looking at that dirt road to figure out what was the best and fastest way to reconnect to Gardner. And we looked at some other options as well, but we landed on the Old Gardner Road, which I'll talk more about here in a minute. We put about 21,000 tons, the Park Service crews, of material on that road in 2 weeks. We're simultaneously working closely with Federal Highways, Department of Interior, the Washington office, the National Park Service, and we're given about $60 million in quick release funding to get to work. I can't say enough about the partnership with Federal Highways. Really could not have done what we did this last summer without them. And so we called the northern end kind of the major flood recovery zone. And as we did the same damage assessments down south, we realized there wasn't as much damage in the southern end. So we started working on plans, knowing the economic impacts happening to our gateway communities, to try to reestablish operations on the southern loop. We engaged about 1,500 business owners and residents in Cody, West Yellowstone, and Jackson on reopening. We reopened the south loop 8 days after the flood. So this loop here with these 3 entrances with a modified visitor management. Some of you may have seen that we called it the alternating license plate system. I can answer questions as to where that came from if you have any interest later. Yeah, we knew that we could not we get 1 million people a month in the park. We knew we couldn't put 1 million people in half the park, so we had to come up with something to moderate vehicles or otherwise overwhelm the southern loop. We did, prior to that, have a couple areas that needed to be repaired, but they were nothing like the north. So we were happy to reopen half the park in 8 days. We continued to work on this northern loop. Obviously, these corridors were blown, so we knew we would not get those reopened super quickly. But we did get this northern loop cleared of mudslides and repaired, bridges inspected by July 2nd. So we had, roughly 94% of the park open within about 20 days, which is a testament to the team and the partners and everybody coming together to kind of work on solutions that for every different iteration that we were going through. Developed a plan. I mentioned that we took this dirt road. I'll show you some pictures. We put 20,000 tons of material on it in 2 weeks with our crews, just so we could get one-way traffic back and forth. This dirt road was impassable 3 days after the flood because it was so saturated. And we began to work with Federal Highways to immediately work on a plan to 2-lane this road, which started on July 6th. And then concurrently worked with Federal Highways to get the right contractors in both areas to help us. We got HK contractors on the north entrance of the Old Gardner Road. We got Oftedal on the northeast entrance road, and we really lucked out. And if you think about it, June 13th, most really good contractors have a lot of work. They're not open for, they're busy. And, my hat's off to Oftedal and HK. HK was in the park doing a $50 million project for us already down here between West Thumb and Old Faithful. That was fortunate because we were able to pull them up right away to start working on the old Gardner Road. But Oftedal really dropped everything and helped us out. And you'll see the amazing work they did here in just a few minutes. So for the old Gardner Road, once again, this is kind of what it looked like 3 days after. We could not get uphill and with 4x4s. I mentioned we put the 20,000 plus tons of material on. These are our crews, and our crews got it to looking like this after 2 weeks. So they did a great job, and that did allow us to start getting employees, the mail, essential services back and forth in traffic windows. We worked on the 2-lane plan with the Federal Highways. HK was awarded that contract. They started the 2-lane process July 6th and went to town. I've never seen anything like it. Federal Highways hasn't seen anything like it. They widened that 10-foot road in record time. Engineered it really well, considering how fast it was constructed. And you can see where the old road was. This was 1 lane, 10 feet wide. This is about a 45-degree slope. And they built this all the way up, multiple sections where they had to do this to get it to 2 lanes. Here's a before and after. Before over here on the right, same shot on the left when they finished November 1st. Same thing, before on the left, after on the right. Over 1,000 feet of over 5,000 feet of guardrail. So almost a mile of guardrail put on this. And it's serving us well. It got a baptism by fire in November. Thank God they finished by November 1st, because about the second week in November, second, third week, we had 2 to 3 feet of snow up here in the park. So that was Old Gardner Road. For the northeast entrance, I'll just run you through this sequence. This was Oftedal's work. This is a major section right outside of Cook City. Went through, diverted the river. And they were able to do that in each one of these locations. Start rebuilding, getting a construction lane established. Oftedal did not start this until August 9th. And they had it looking like this. This is before. So on the left is during the flood. On the right is, I think, October 13th. So they put level 5 riprap in here. Once again, this, as I mentioned several times, an area that was on the apex corner that blew out. Another section that was blown out further down. Got the lanes reestablished. You're talking at 2 months and a week. They were able to get these 2 blown out sections repaired, which they did a fantastic job with our landscape architects, putting the curve back in the river, putting the river back where it was. I can't say enough about them and their efforts. This is the one that's most impressive, I think you'll find. So this is that section, that 750, 800 foot blown out section. We call it Trout Lake. There's a trailhead to a lake called Trout Lake near this. This is what that looked like. You saw some of the pictures before. That was the one I showed you at 6:45 in the morning or whatever. Think about, I want you to pay attention to this slope here and remember what kind of time frame they had to do this. They put the river back over here. Same thing, got a construction lane established, also got a road up on top. Start pulling that slope back. One thing I'll mention, probably one of the best decisions that we made, is the original plan for this was to put a 3-span Bailey bridge, a temporary bridge to bridge that 800-foot gap. When Oftedal got here, they said they could do it without putting the bridge in. There was some back and forth. And we decided not to do that. Thank goodness that we did, because as you all know, in the federal government, there's no such thing as a temporary anything. So that bridge probably would have been there forever. But they just did. I mean, look how far they pulled that slope back. So that's what it was. And this is what it was October 15th. And they let the river come back to where it was just after the flood. It's a pretty incredible feat. They're going to come back and do some more work in the spring. But this was critical to getting the corridor reopened. Most of you know, Cook City really relies on snowmobiling and the park, definitely in the summer economy, which was blown last summer, but they needed it for the winter economy and just for the residents to get back and forth. And I mean, this is pretty, both of those Old Gardner Road to 2-lane in 4 months and getting these sections repaired. Very different types of projects, but equally impressive. So I'm finishing up here. We can get to some Q&A. I'm back on, just to give you an orientation. This is the last slide or two. This is Mammoth. So I'm back on the northeast entrance road. This was the road to Gardner. And so the canyon down here is where you saw the damage on the north entrance road. What we're looking at right now, I think I've got a zoomed in view of this. All right, so you know where I am, where my cursor is on this green spot. That's this. So this is the road. If you've been here, it's 5 miles from here to Gardner. Gardner's out here. The old Gardner Road that we 2-laned is over here on the left. Road through the canyon. And I asked for, from a permanent reconstruction standpoint, where could we build a permanent road? We put $25 million into the old Gardner Road. It'd be nice if we could use some of that. We have an interesting phenomenon here with sliding glacial soils that come from the west, and in some cases are moving 6 inches to a foot a year. So that makes road building difficult. You saw down here at that section in the canyon that was blown out, those steep cliffs. We're not positive that rebuilding through the canyon's the best way to go. So I asked for every alternative that where could we build a road? And one was basically, so the road where my cursor is comes back up here to Mammoth was unaffected by the flood. So that's still intact. One alternative would be to bridge across right here and do some switchbacks and take this road across the top of this and drop it into Gardner that way. One alternative that we'll analyze will be going back through the canyon with some type of raised viaduct or raised structure that I'm confident we can rebuild that to be resilient to a future flood event. There are some fractures in these cliff areas up here. A little nervous about making a $400 million investment and having this rock face slide down onto the structure. We'll analyze that. We're also looking at a hybrid that comes across here and then drops into the lower part of the old Gardner Road into Gardner there. And then we're looking at a modified, widening and taking out some of the curves on the old Gardner Road. So that gives you kind of an idea of, what we're looking at. The criteria really are most, least environmentally impacting, what's the least visibly impacting, what's the most resilient to future events, the best investment, the fastest. Depending on which engineer you talk to, because of the sliding soils, this road is probably good for 5 or 10 years. Some say it's good for a lot longer. I feel comfortable. We've got the money. We got a flood recovery funding out of the last omnibus bill that was passed in December. So we have the capital to invest in a good alternative for this corridor. We'll take our time and decide on what the best approach is. On the northeast entrance road for the long term, we'll probably, look at a mixture of more armoring. The sections that we fixed on the northeast entrance road are probably 100 times stronger than pre-flood. So there may be some areas we move the road away from the river, or it might be just looking at areas that are not rip-wrapped and going in and doing some armoring moving forward. And then we've got a $30 million temporary wastewater system that'll be finished, being constructed right now here in Mammoth. That'll be finished here next month. So that's that. I know it's a lot of info for everybody, and questions that I can for you on anything I talked about, or if I missed something you want to discuss, let me know.
Do we have any questions? Just a minute, I got a question back there in the back. Harry.
So I'm curious, there were probably visitors in the backcountry. How did they get them out?
So I got the question that you probably had visitors in the backcountry and they're curious how you got them out.
Yeah, so we have a pretty good permit system, and we know exactly how many people are in the backcountry as long as they have a permit. We know exactly where they are, which campsites, what their itinerary is. One of the first things that we looked at was who was in the backcountry, especially up north. We had, I think, 12 groups. We used our helicopter to go and visualize, make sure they were okay. Several of those groups were outfitters that had satellite phones we were able to make contact with, and everybody was able to get out. I think we might have flown one group out, but for the most part, everybody was able to get out on their own safely.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Yeah, Ed. So the question is, how did you handle the environmental documents and how did you accelerate that process?
That was a challenge, but there is a emergency clause in the National Environmental Policy Act that allows, under emergency circumstances, for us to accelerate the process as far as timelines, what's required under public involvement. We still did a very thorough analysis of impact to resources. In the Old Gardner Roads case, it was already a 10-foot road. Widening it another 10 or 12 feet was determined to be not substantial as far as impact goes. And then since we were rebuilding basically in kind on the northeast entrance road, we were able to accelerate through that process. It's a good question.
Thank you.
I get that question more than anything.
How long did it take the Yellowstone River to clear?
How long did it take the Yellowstone River to clear?
Well, one of the complicating factors that Monday was the national. First of all, we did not have any warning that the flood was coming. There was no flood predictions or anything like that, so it took everybody by surprise. The other thing is, on that Monday, they were forecasting a similar event for the following weekend, which didn't happen. The Yellowstone River, I would say, stayed at 40,000 or higher CFS for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks maybe, and then stayed in the 30,000 CFS range most of the first part of July, and did not really subside until kind of middle to end of July as far as volume.
Any other questions?
What sort of wastewater system did they put in, and how did their potable water system?
I want to know what type of wastewater system you put in and how your potable water systems fared through the flooding.
It's a good question. So we were lucky. This is the first time you'll hear we've been investing hundreds of millions of dollars to reduce deferred maintenance in this park over the last several years. There were some 1930s percolator ponds that had never been taken out for whatever reason, and I'm glad they weren't. So as the wastewater was flowing into the river, we were looking at what are the possibilities to get it turned off and diverted. And they found the 1930s percolator ponds were still there. They retrenched the trench to those ponds. and diverted the wastewater flow into a trench, which then flowed into these two percolator ponds from the 30s. And it worked incredibly well. Yeah. Simultaneously, we're building a temporary treatment center. I'm happy to follow up with you if you're interested on exactly what type it is, but we've established 2 new sewer ponds to carry wastewater. The new treatment system will be done here in about a month. That will take all the wastewater, treat it, and put it into the new ponds until we can get the pipe rerun back to Gardner's system. And they rely on our wastewater. Their system was built for to handle our capacity, and they actually need it. We're not going to be able to make that decision until we decide on what the permanent long-term road is going to, or where it's going to be, because we'll run the pipe once we figure out where that road alignment's going to happen. So the wastewater has been the biggest issue in Mammoth. Once we got the roads reconnected, we couldn't open the hotel here. There's been a lot of other water conservation efforts. The campground's been closed. With this temporary system online, we'll be able to open the hotel, we think, on schedule in April here in Mammoth. Have, generally speaking, absent some other volcano blowing up or some other earthquake or something like that, we'll have normal facility capacity here in Mammoth until we get some of these long-term solutions completed.
Any other questions?
How did their water system there?
And how did your water systems fare?
Well, the one here, the actual water systems, drinking water fared well. The system here, obviously, well, there wasn't a system, but the pipe blew out, so we're putting a temp system in. We had, and this was the system at Canyon and the systems at Canyon and Old Faithful were already maxed out prior to the flood as far as capacity. The floods, thankfully, the flood waters were not as bad down south, but the flood waters we did get did affect both of those systems for several days. Another good reason that we evacuated the park. There were a lot of people that said, I didn't need to close the southern end of the park. Yeah, we did. Number one, we had over 100 bridges that needed to be inspected. There were major floodwaters down south. There just wasn't the violent volume that you saw up north. And then we needed to make sure before we brought visitors back in that our wastewater systems especially could handle volume, or otherwise we just turn around and close the park again. So we have about $150 million worth of approved projects to upgrade our wastewater facilities at Canyon, Old Faithful, and Grant Village, and those projects will be kicking off later this year and next.
Yes.
Use a phone survey, effectively, Gardner Road.
A flown survey?
Well, just an aerial.
Aerial.
survey.
We want us to know if you used the aerial survey successfully to help you
Gardner.
on Gardner.
You mean as far as two-laning the old Gardner Road?
Yes.
Yeah, I think at one point we had 17 engineers out here from Federal Highways and private contractors. Aerial, they were surveying it from every different place. The interesting thing about some of the conflicts with opinions is multiple engineers told me that even though it was constructed quickly, it was engineering wise much better than the original road that was constructed in the 40s that we lost. And on the flip side, then you've got engineers saying that the sliding soils are going to cause that road to slide in the next 5 to 10 years. But I've got pretty good confidence in the survey work that was done by the various engineers. And even though, like I said, they did it in record time, I encourage if any of you haven't or get a chance to come up and take a look at it, we'd be happy to host you up here, but it's a pretty impressive feat. And it doesn't mean we can just take our time on finding the permanent solution. I have a feeling that the alternative that we'll land on will be some combination of what we've already done with this old Gardner Road expansion and, rebuilding some areas that, the grades need to be taken out, the curves need to be taken out. Better engineering needs to go in for one reason or another.
Okay, I think I saw another question here. Yeah.
Did Yellowstone Lake help alleviate a lot of those problems on the southern half of Yellowstone?
So the question is, did Yellowstone Lake help alleviate some of the problems that were occurring on the southern half of the park?
Yeah, it's a great question. Short answer is yes, I think it did. If you look at the map, the Continental Divide goes, basically traverses the park from just south of West Yellowstone above Shoshone Lake, and then it drops kind of at the headwaters of the Snake River in the southeast part of the park. So the Snake River headwaters and the Beckler River all flow into the Columbia and ultimately the Pacific. All the other waterways in the park obviously flow into the Missouri, Mississippi, et cetera. The number one, they didn't get as much precipitation down south as we did up north, not even close. But I do think that the lake served kind of as a modulator, so to speak, on the flow. I mean, it was definitely really high, but it wasn't violent. And the same thing with the Firehole and the Madison rivers. I think they were so close to the headwaters of those rivers, and there was no major runoff from very steep mountains versus the north end of the park where you had all that water coming down off the Beartooth and then just building into all of these tributaries that fed into the Yellowstone. Multiple reasons, but I do think one of the main reasons down south was A, Yellowstone Lake, to your point, and B, that we just didn't get the amount of precip down there that we got up north in that short amount of time.
Okay, yes, Jim,
You know what final cost been yet?
do you know what the cost to date has been so far?
We've spent around 90 million. About 50 million of that's 55 million of that's for the road corridors to be repaired, and then the rest is for wastewater operations over time, things like that. So we're at about 90. We feel like we've got, we do have very good support in Washington for not only getting the money released quickly so we could do what we did last summer. If we hadn't gotten that, Yellowstone, the north end would still be closed. The huge economic impacts to Wyoming and to Montana. So we were very fortunate to get that much money that quickly. And then we've got the second round of long-term flood recovery funding that we'll put to use and invest it in the best way possible.
Okay, you got another question anywhere? Don't see any more questions. I say, Kim, just hats off to your team and your leadership, their leadership in the participation and partners and collaboration. Impressive work to pull that off in the time frame that you did in that environment. And so nice job. That was a great presentation. Would everybody join me in giving Mr. Kamshali a big round of applause?
Thank you. And I always had an appreciation for engineers. So I appreciate everything that you all do, no matter what your field is. I have a newfound respect for the engineering field after last year. Once again, really sorry I couldn't be there in person. Hope the rest of your conference goes well. And anytime any of you are up here and want to look me up, please do. And thank you, Shelby, for everything.
Great,
Carter.
thank you. We sure appreciate it. And I probably will take you up on that. Come look you up. I did a lot of work on the Beartooth Highway, so pretty intrigued with working in that area.
Great. All right, everybody, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.